We've had all kinds of things that are sort of head scratchers in terms of, I'm not getting that you're not getting this, and you're really not, are you? Yeah, but and with FASD, there's a lot of people who, in fact, the majority of people don't know anything about it. It is a truly invisible disability, and it is highly debilitating for the person who has it, highly frustrating for the families who have family members with it. Mm-hmm. And the world looks at them as, shakes their head and goes, there's nothing wrong with that person. What's your problem? You're limiting them, right?
Right. And
I'm sure your parents
wrong, and then it's like that child is, there's something wrong with them. And
it takes a while to see it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yet to outsiders who don't spend a whole lot of time with them, and you're trying to describe things, you as the parent turn out to be the bad guy, and you're underestimating your child, and you don't know them well enough, and you're holding them back. And the laundry list, and it's hard, and it's painful as the parent in ways that our children will never understand, or anybody really, because we know what we know. Mm-hmm. We know what we deal with every day behind closed doors in the house, and there's a commonality between that and reactive attachment disorder as well. Mm-hmm. Appears one way on the outside, and inside the house, the struggle is very, very real. And I would even say for both of those diagnoses, it can be life-threatening if it's not handled appropriately. The average lifespan data, which is a little old at this point, for people with FASD is, the average death is 34 years old. Yeah. Yeah. And that's not because of the disability. It's because of
the poor choice,
the lack of logic that leads to all kinds of behavioral challenges that then look like then you label them a bad person, right? Instead of brain damaged person,
Yeah. Well, they're either in prison or dead, I think is the consensus that, if they make it through into that phase where my brother's now at, where he's at least not in prison and not dead, but he has a lot to deal with.
Yes.
Still. But last year, my one brother tried to kill my mom. Yeah. And the police had to remove him from the house, and it just was a scary situation.
That's so real, and thank you for sharing that, because that's the kind of reality that a lot of people are living with that no one actually really shares, and it occasionally gets mentioned on an online group because you don't have to say it face to face, and it makes a parent feel like a failure. Mm-hmm. The child certainly feels like a failure all day, every day. We have been, I'm so thankful and blessed 10 times over, and I don't know how we've avoided it, but we have no issue with jail yet, no issue with pregnancy, drugs, or alcohol. I don't know how we've avoided it, because I don't think we're spectacular parents. I think we have been fortunate, and probably, as we've been labeled overprotective over and over and over again, people don't understand the reality of the future if we aren't overprotective. And I know they don't look like they need it. Yeah, they do. Mm-hmm. They do. I mean, somebody has experienced with you that's even further down the road with your siblings. Mm-hmm.
Right.
The reality is you sort of can't be too overprotective, can you?
No, you can't. No.
And yet then 18 comes along. Yeah. And you can't control it anymore. Right. That gets scarier, doesn't it? I'm sure your parents did.
Yeah. Yeah. And I still have another sibling who, I heard my mom when I was at their house last month, talking on there, I love you. You need to make these changes. You can't come home right now. Yeah. Those boundaries of, if they have the capability to be on their own, it's scary. You don't know what's going to happen and where the next day is going to lead.
Yeah, because when you say capability, they have the capability to walk out the door and start a few things in life. Yeah. Hanging on to what they maybe can build is a whole nother ballgame.
Right.
And, and that's why launching, and Natalie and I talked about this a lot as we were discussing writing the book, launching for a lot of families necessarily isn't about a child leaving the nest. Yeah. And for some of us, some of our kids will never leave. In our case, of our 3, that we have one that's officially diagnosed, the other 2, they were removed for alcohol use. When you've seen FAS, you know FAS. There's no point spending $4,000 or $5,000 to diagnose it again, right? It's very obvious. And, we have one that's never going to be able to live independently. He just can't. Yeah. Interestingly, he's also the one who probably has the highest IQ and sort of academic capacity. And yet the difference between academic and function are miles apart.